Hello everyone, good morning, good evening. I hope you're all doing good. So today we are going to discuss about backlog refinement. So if you're someone who is interested in product management and quality assurance, please continue watching and share your feedback, which will help me grow in this journey. I hope you all remember in the last video we discussed about backlog refinement and backlog management. So in this video we are going to discuss in depth about backlog refinement call or a session. So this session is a preparatory session which happens internally within the Scrum team, and the host of this or the organizer of this call is generally the product owner, and the audience of this call will be generally the Scrum team and also maybe the respective managers like dev manager or QA manager. It's not a leadership or stakeholder related calls. It's just a internal team level call which happens every iteration. So what is this call all about? So if this call is the agenda of this call is basically to understand the user story, the intent of this user story, what is the business value we are going to derive, how are we going to approach the implementation, how are we going to do the business validations, and also uncover the different scenarios for QA to understand what should be the expected product behavior on certain scenarios. Also, this call will help us in defining what is the in scope development or testing effort, what is the in scope areas of work that we see, and also it brings us with understanding what are our dependencies if we have missed out in the PI planning, because in PI planning there can be that we are working on a high level, so we may have not identified the internally what are the other dependency. We can uncover all these dependency at this stage, and also QA team can identify what are the different scenarios that they need to test to make this QA validated. Okay, so these are the different things that are discussed. So that means this is more like a brainstorming call wherein the team and the product owner will be working together, and product owner representing like a voice of customer, discussing about what are the different why we have this story, what should be the expected behavior, and what is the business value we will be deriving if we implement this change. And then the engineering team will be working towards the development side, and QA will also be discussing from their side what are the different tasks they see associated to this user story, and by when we will be able to complete this user story implementation and QA and move it to the further stages. So this extensive discussion brainstorming will happen in this call, and during this call there is generally the possibility that we will have many open-ended questions that requires the product owner to go back to check with the other product teams or the dependent teams or with the business users or the stakeholders to understand what should be the behavior for that open-ended questions. So these all open-ended questions will be also noted in this calls, and then we will get that clarified, and finally all these questions and the scenarios will be understood in this call, and then we will be ready, we will make the story ready. That means we'll be grooming the story in a way that this can be moved this can be taken up in the upcoming sprint by the team. So this call becomes very important in that aspect that if the team needs to pick up the story, this call needs to happen because the user story needs to be groomed well, which will help improving the team efficiency, and also the business value will be very well understood, which will help them in their implementation and QA validations too. And coming to the dependent teams will be identified sometimes in this call, or it can be that we previously identified. even that needs to be discussed with that identified teams, that we are taking up these stories in the next sprint, we have groomed it, and we make that alignment decisions, and accordingly we plan to move that story, can be taken in the upcoming sprint or the next sprint. So this is a brainstorming session. So generally it depends based on the different types of user stories and the complexity. The call duration can vary accordingly, so there is no standard time duration for this call, and the frequency of this call is also not something that is defined, but scaled agile ideally says one is enough, but it can be that if it is a complex feature, or the user stories which require a little more refinement, which requires a lot of discussion within the team level, or we have open-ended questions, then we will have multiple backlog refinement session, generally one or two extra, to just make sure that we are all set for the sprint planning call to pick up the story and start working the moment the sprint starts. I hope this video was helpful. If it is so, please comment below what are the different topics you would like me to discuss on, and your feedback will help me in growing this journey too. Thank you everyone. I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye bye.